Hello, good evening, and welcome to the land of the rising sun, Japan. My Wednesday nights, and welcome to this Invictus Racing League No Assist Champion. Is looking to be a very, very interesting race with a lot of the title contenders well on their way, out ahead of everyone else at the moment. That's Gamer the Best, and well, with Nikki currently leading the championship, Gamer's not far behind. So, can anyone do anything about Gamer the Best and his dominance over the last two races? First Japanese Grand Prix was held in 1976 at the Fuji Speedway, which is 40 miles west of Yokohama, and the race actually featured the title decider between James Hunt and Niki Lauda, running horrendously monsoon-like conditions, where James Hunt took the title from Niki Lauda in that race. It then had a few races until 1979, when unfortunately there was a horrendous accident where two spectators were killed, and Japan was taken off of the Formula One calendar. Until 1987, where it was held at this new venue in Suzuka, which is southwest of Nagoya, formerly a test track used by Honda, and it's the only figure eight circuit in the F1 calendar. The first time we came to Suzuka, of course, saw the another title decider, which was Nigel Mansell and Nelson Piquet. But however, with Nigel Mansell injuring himself in practice session, it let Nelson Piquet go on to win the world title. But since its return to the calendar, the Japanese Grand Prix proved to be highly popular with fans and drivers alike. A ballot held for the 1990 race was applied for 120,000 tickets by 3 million fans. So you can see that just how important this is to the people in Japan and people around the world that love coming to Suzuka. It's a brilliant race. It always was throughout the race. So we're looking forward to this one. In late 2006, it was announced that the event would return to the newly redesigned Fuji circuit, which they hadn't been since the early days of the Japanese Grand Prix, and it was held at Fuji in 2007 and 2008, but then it was then decided it would alternate between Suzuka and Fuji in either side. But however, in 2009, Fuji's owners, who were actually Toyota, decided that they could not afford to run or have the running costs of the circuit, so it went back to its permanent home of where we are tonight, and that is Suzuka. Now, the circuit itself, it's 5.8 kilometres long. That's about 3.6 miles. It's the fifth longest circuit of the F1 calendar, with a 350 metre long drag down to turn 1. The cars will be hitting around a top speed of 199 miles an hour on the approach to turn 16, and the longest straight is of 900 metres on the turn, equally on the approach to turn 16. The cars will be doing 65% full throttle across the lap. It's the longest period of full throttle is around 16 seconds as they come into turn 16 also. And the gear changes is around 42 gear changes per lap. That's around 1,113 these guys will be doing throughout the race. So they will definitely be getting a finger workout around this circuit. As we're on board here with Nick, our current championship leader, Nicky 9095 in the McLaren, out on his outlap on the super soft tyres. Of course, last race we had in Canada last week was won by Gamer the Best by a country mile, with boy better known, otherwise known as Scott, came in with a debut second place. So cracking result there for Scott, and Joel picked up a very handy third position, which was his second consecutive third position, so getting him good points to bring him up into the championship race. With Stifler 1980 missing out tonight, he's definitely going to feel the effects of that when we go into the next race, because Joel has definitely got a superb opportunity to overtake him and really start challenging Chill Nilland and Nicky. And with Gamer also looking to be the man on form at the moment, we are in for an absolute barnstormer over the end of the season when it comes to the championship. Someone that is looking for an upturn of form, that's Malk, that's F1 WWFC 07, who's not actually scored any points since race 3 in Singapore. So it's been a poor middle part of the season for Malk, so he's definitely going to be looking for a decent result out here today. As Nicky crosses the line, he goes into turn 1 to start his outlap, gets a little bit of drift going into turn 1 there, so braked just a little bit too late there, just kind of unsettled himself at the car. So now he's going to go through the centre S's. So a very complex series of corners. Does look like it's quite, you have to be quite neat, but it does look quite easy, but can be very, very testing on these drivers with quick left-right maneuvers on the steering wheel. So very easy to unbalance the car if it hasn't got its perfect setup. So as he goes here underneath the bridge, through the crossover, heading down towards the hairpin at turn 10, as he now takes the long sweeping right-hander, that's turn 12, into the famous spoon curve, turn 13 and turn 14. Spoon, actually quite a tricky corner. You can find yourself running out a little bit wide on the exit. You can carry a little bit too much speed, so the guys here have got to really make sure they're just hooking it up right, hitting the right bit of the apex on Spoon, as we now go towards the absolutely fantastic 130R, and he keeps it full throttle as he should round the corner, down into the hairpin at the end of the lap, and towards top spot. And Nicky is going to do pole at the moment, provisional pole with a 32 flat, so cracking lap there for there. But as you can see, game of the best with a 31.5, so 5 tenths up on Nicky already. As we'll go on board here with Mero, who's also just come out of the hairpin. He's going to cross start finish line, and Mero does an invalidated lap by the looks of it, so Mero will look to set another one later in the session, as Mystic Man 22 puts himself on the front row of the grid with a 131.8. So good lap there from Mystic, who hasn't had the best run of results in the last few races after his debut in Italy, where he had an absolute cracking race. Seemed to have struggled a little bit, and he'll be looking for a much more positive result today, as Joel puts it onto the second row of the grid with a 131.9. so the car's starting to dip into the 131s now, and you can definitely look to see if the guys will be looking to push the low 131s when it comes to the second and final run in this session. As we'll go on board here with Boy Better Know, who's also in the McLaren, is heading up. He's just gone through the second Degner, heading up to the hairpin. As we do welcome back Eyemakers as well, who's had a couple of races out, so it's good to have Eyemakers back in the league. Unfortunately, we are missing a couple of guys today, so we will only be having 10 races in, as Chill Nillian sets the fastest lap with a 131.4. So this track, oh, as you see, Boy Better Know there, just kicking the rear end out, coming out Spoon, so will compromise him when it comes. He probably would have lost maybe 2 or 3 tenths of that. Just got the power down a little bit too early coming out of Spoon. Keeps the power on going around 130R. He locks up the front right going into the final chicane. Bit of a scruffy lap for Scott there, and you can see he bails out of the lap. Looked like he just lost a little bit too much time there. As Meredy too does set a lap, and he goes with a 131.2, but Nicky 9095 beats him by 0.04 of a second to go back on to pole position. So the laps absolutely coming down, and we're getting, the track is definitely evolving. The cars are starting to lay a bit of rubber down, and it's starting to warm up a little bit, and you're finding, well, Game of the Best looked like he'd set a time that was 5 tenths faster than Nicky originally, and he's now finding himself in 4th position as he started the race in Canada last week. So we have 3 cars left to set a timed lap. So we've got Scott in 8th position, who of course bailed out of that last lap. Eyemakers, who's currently out on his outlap on the soft compounded tyre, and Tumas 5.3, who runs a little bit wide going into Spoon. As you can see, they're just, he's going to run out wide coming out of Spoon. Yeah, so got the power on a little bit too early there for Tumas, so unfortunate for him, but see if he continues around the lap. He's going to go up to 130R here, get it turned in quite nicely. He doesn't quite kiss the apex of that left-hander, as we've got a yellow in sector 1 and 2, and it's Eyemakers who's gone off in the Force India, as Tumas 5.3 comes into the pit, so he bails out of that lap. Lost quite a bit of time coming out of Spoon, as Eyemakers looks around, possibly at the end of the centre S's at the start of the lap, and into the Degners that he lost the car, put it into the gravel. So Eyemakers has definitely, in the races that he was part of, he was starting to get up to speed, but it was all about little mistakes he was making. So he's definitely going to look to, as you see him running wide, there will be it's not quite a rallycross car, those Force Indias, and it won't enjoy running onto the grass like that, and we'll have to spend the next few corners getting the dirt off those tyres, and like with only 3 minutes left, he's going to be pushed to get back into the pit lane and back out with a fresh set of tyres. So cars starting to come back out for their outlap once again. So you've got Mystic Man 22, Joel and Scott, boy better know, all coming back out for their second timed laps. And with 2 minutes and 40 seconds left in the session, I think you're going to start to see all of the cars start to make their way back out as iMakers does come into the pits. But he's going to have to be an absolute electric change of tyres for the Force India team to get him back out and round with the times around here with around 1:30. So it's going to be tight for him to get back out. So currently, if you go through the driver standings in the championship at the moment, you've got Nicky 9095 in first position with 50 points. 6 points behind him, you have Chill Nilliand with 44, and Stifler 1980 also on 44, and Joel V520 2 points behind on 42. So Joel only 8 points behind Nicky for the lead in the championship at the moment. And then as you go down through the championship, you've got Game of the Best on 34. And that 34 is only coming 3 out of the 8 races so far this season. So after his wins in China and in Canada by, well, Canada was a 25 second lead, I believe, and China it was absolute worldy of a drive, and he finished by well over 45 seconds to Nicky 9095. So Game of the Best always absolutely on form when it comes to race day. May not always get it hooked up when it comes to qualifying, but a real dangerous force when it comes to the race, and we know just what pace he can show as iMakers gets a little bit wide coming out of turn 1 and turn 2 there, going around the center S's. It's all about keeping it nice and tidy, and we'll go on board with some of the other guys who are on their fast laps. So everyone out at the moment, iMakers and Tumas just out on their out laps, but they're going to have to get around. It's Mero D2 who's going on to the first and second corner, currently in second position in the Red Bull. Mero D2 actually has had a couple of, as boy better know, Scott sets a 1:31.1, so cracking lap there for Scott, who did manage to get hook a lap up and puts it on provisional pole. Took pole in Canada last week, so clearly it's Mero, as you see there, the Mero right on the edge there. Car came flying round the Degner. But yeah, Mero, really good qualifying for the last few races. He's been finding himself up as Gamer the Best 262 has lost it coming out of the second Degner and has lost his front right hand tyre. So the Sauber crew are going to have an absolute nightmare trying to get that fixed. That suspension floor might be damaged, trying to get that fixed before the race tomorrow. It means that currently sitting in 5th position and with the potential of losing some more positions as the yellow flag is out for him at the moment. As we look at Nicky, who seems to be going slowly, so Nicky doesn't look to be improving at all. So Mero D2 has the opportunity to push above Nicky, and he just needs to make up by 400s. He's going to cross the line. Does Mero improve? Goes across the line, and he does. He goes top with a 1:31 flat. Absolutely perfect lap there for Mero D2. Hats off to him. He's driven superbly in qualifying over the last few races. Some really good results. And puts it currently on provisional pole with Chill Nillian coming around. What does he do? He doesn't improve. Chill stays on the second row in 4th position. So currently you've got Boy Better Know will not be setting a faster time. Nicky, I don't believe, will be setting a faster time. So Mystic Man 22 currently in 6th position with a 1:31.8. What can he do? He's coming around 1:30R now. Get it brake just in time for that hairpin. Don't want to go deep into the hairpin. And what's he bails out. So Mystic is going to start in 6th position. Joel's not going any quicker, and neither of the guys behind. So it's Mero D2 who is going to take pole position for the Japanese Grand Prix, with Scott on the front row of the grid with him in 2nd position. Nicky 9095 and Chilso are 2 two racers at the top of the standings in 3rd and 4th position, with 4-man Gamer at the best, crashing out of his 2nd time lap in 5th position. So a real shock there for Gamer, who finished in 4th last week, and after unfortunately invalidating his 2nd time lap. And today, with a 5th place start, it's going to be a tricky start to the race for him, because as you've seen in True to Life, with Senna and Prost going into the first corner, anything can happen going into the first and second turns here at Suzuka. And with the Senna S's making it very, very hard to overtake, your first real overtaking opportunity in the lap, unless someone makes a mistake, is up at the hairpin at turn 10. So can be quite a tricky track to overtake on. So it's going to be very, very interesting. Now, a pit stop here, which the guys will find will be crucial, as we will be running the medium soft and super soft compound. So it's all with the cars all on super softs from 1st down to 8th, I believe. Only iMakers and Tumas did not set a lap, so they're going to have to, or ask for special dispensation to join the race from the stewards from the 107% rule. But they will be able to choose what tyres they start on, so a little bit of an advantage for iMakers and Tumas there, who can change their strategy up just a little bit. But Mero D2 there with an absolutely cracking lap to take pole position with a 131 flat, with Boy Better Know in 2nd, Nicky 3rd, Chill 4th, Gamer 5th, Mystic 6th, Joel 7th, Malk 8th, iMakers 9th, and Tumas 5-3 in 10th. So yeah, as I was saying about the pit stops, it takes about 20 seconds to make a stop around here. The pit lane is 413 metres long, that's 0.2 of a mile. So yeah, it's all about strategy. A lot of the time here is you find a lot of guys possibly not wanting to stay in the dirty air behind cars in front of them. So you might see cars trying to undercut and overcut each other to try and get that advantage, because overtaking can be tricky, so getting it done in the pit lanes may be one of the easier way to get your move done. So only one of Suzuka's 17 corners is taken at less than 62 miles an hour, and as a result, a good high-speed balance is important. To be fast, the driver needs a stable rear end and a responsive front end. So as I was saying before, setups here are absolutely crucial, and it's really, really up to the drivers and their engineers to make sure they've got it sorted. But you'll be able to tell when a driver's really on it when the high-speed changes of direction are very smooth, and they really are. Now, we are expecting about medium downforce, so and brake wear is quite low around here due to the fact that we don't have too many slower corners. So it's going to be a very, very interesting race. As the lights come on, we have 4 and 5, and we are go in the race, and Chill jumps the start, and it's that's the worst thing you want to see for Chill, as we have a car on the grass already. As Mero D2 maintains the lead going into the first corner, but he's going to get challenged from the 2 McLaren. He's going to push Mero out wide with a little tap. As Mero's going to find himself dropping right to the back of the grid. He's going to just about stay out of everyone's way, as the 2 McLarens lead the field round to start with, as Boy Better Know leads from Nicky 9095. Chill Nillian, after his jump start, is currently in 3rd position, with Game of the Best having made up that position to 4th. iMakers has made it all the way up to 5th position, so quality start there for iMakers, with Mystic Man 22 in 6th, Malk in 7th, Tumut and in 8th, Mero in 9th, and Joel in 10th, as we've got a yellow in sector 2, and it's Joel who's turned the car around going under the crossover after the second Degner. So the man looking for a good result today to push up towards the top of the standings, with the absolute nightmare start, as Boy Better Know with put it up the inside of Mero going into the Senna S's around turn 3 and 4. Just tapped the side pod of the Red Bull, and iMakers has made it up past Chill Nillian. So iMakers on a charge at the moment, having moved up several positions. But look at this gaggle of cars going into 130Rs. iMakers goes wide. That's going to allow Chill to come back through. And does Chill try to go around the outside of the hairpin? No, he doesn't. He's going to try and take the slight tighter line, as Chill gets a better run. And also Mystic Man 22, they're going to go 3 wide going down the pit straight, and they are. What we're going to go going into turn 1. We are 3 wide going into turn 1, and it's the Haas that just gets the move done there. And there are cars all over the circuit, and or as the Haas goes wide, and that's Chilnillian who falls back once again. So we have a real gaggle of cars of a battle of 4th position all the way back to Malk in 8th, and Merrow's back on the end of the train in 9th as the Force India runs wide against Highmakers. He's going to get in the way of the Haas, and he does, and Chilnillian collects him, and in front of him it's the Toro Rosso that's gone wide. So we've really got a bit of a messy start to this. These guys really pushing so hard at the start of this race, but so Highmakers there slowing to let the other Force India through. I think he realised that he may have caused a bit of an issue there, but Chilnillian and Joel, both championship contenders to Nicky, who's currently in 2nd position, both suffering early incidents and will be finding themselves down the rear end of the top 10. I don't think Joel had any damage, but Chil looks like he may require a new front wing in the Haas. So the worst possible start for the guys for their championship challenge. And Mero D2, after starting on pole position, went all the way down to the back of the grid after his contact with Boy Better Know, has moved back up to 5th place, and he's now going to be on the challenge to Mystic as the fastest laps here are falling. And you saw there Scott, then Nicky, then Gamer, all set fastest laps in quick succession. So Gamer the best, after starting in 5th position, is now going to start hunting down the 2 McLarens ahead of him. And Nicky, of course, is now going to start looking at the other McLaren in front of him and thinking, you know what, I need this with this victory. With my championship challengers in 9th and 10th at the moment, I need to get as many points on them as possible, and especially with Gamer sitting right behind him, also looking at mounting a championship challenge coming towards the end of the season. As Chill does come in and makes that pit stop for a new front wing, that's going to drop him right down the back of the grid by a considerable distance. So unless Chill can run to the end, which is unlikely, it looks like it's going to be a very hard race for him to drive around on his own, as Joel picks up a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. So corner cutting most likely, which is actually quite difficult around Suzuka. So it's places like 130R running off in the runoff area on the right hand side, and crossing the over on the hairpin at the end of the lap. So that's the only real places drivers have got to watch out for corner cuts, as Scott just about gets it stopped for the hairpin, locks that right front like he did in qualifying here. So a little bit too sensitive on the brake pedal there. So he sets the fastest lap with 1:34.7, so definitely holding Nicky at bay, who's starting to come under attack from Gamer in the Sauber in 3rd position. As we'll just keep tabs on that, but at the back we've got Tumas and Malk trading positions, and it's Malk that gets the move done with DRS going into turn 1 as the Force India moves past the Sauber and will go back up to Gamer. As Tumas moves back past, just as I came off it, Tumas got the move done back on Malk in the Force India. So these two fighting over 6th and 7th position. As we'll go back up to Gamer here, who's starting to really hassle the rear end, as Jill looks to have pitted once again. So unless he's made another mistake or he realises he's too far away from any of the battle, we'll look to see if the team has brought him in to retire the car. It may be possible that the team have realised that there's a little bit more damage than we thought on that initial contact that he had, or if he does go out there and just about go, because with 10 drivers in the lobby tonight due to absences, everyone will be getting points. So no matter how many you get, it's all very well. Come towards the end of the season, you want as many points as you can, as the Sauber dives down the inside of Nicky going into the hairpin, and Gamer forces Nicky to take across the hairpin, allows him to have the position, but he's going to get DRS coming on the main straight. And what does he do? He tucks in the gearbox of the McLaren. Does he make the move going down into turn 1? He pulls to the right hand side and looks to have got the move done, and he does. Cuts across the front of the McLaren, and Gamer the best moves up into 2nd position and is now going to start pushing on towards Boy Better Know. And our drivers are finished in 1st and 2nd, are currently up at the top of the grid once again. Of course, last week it was Gamer that won with Scott in 2nd, and this week He's going to have to make up 3 seconds if he's going to overtake Scott. And I believe Chill may have come into the pit lane twice, because he would have to have served his time, his drive-through penalty for jumping the start, which wouldn't have allowed him to change his front wing. So that second pit stop would have meant that he had to come in and change that front wing. So calamity start there for Chill, who jumped the start, which is you can't, as a championship challenger as he is, it's just that slight little bit of loss of concentration, and just fractions of a second before the red light comes out, he just let go of the clutch and put the car into gear, and that's all the stewards need. And he was slapped with that drive-through penalty, and then absolute nightmare start was compounded by picking up front wing damage with his instant with eye makers, who's currently now back in 9th position, attacking Joel V520, who's now in a recovery drive after his early spin after the second Degner. Eye makers tucked right up behind the back of Joel going into 130R. You would be a very brave person to try and get the move done round 130R. It's cars can slide all over the place, and he doesn't. He stays up tight. He's going to look to get DRS coming onto the main straight. And we're on board here with Joel, but we'll go back to Eye Makers, who's sitting just behind him. As up the front we've got Tumas and Malk once again. Oh, and it's Malk that's spun off at the edge of the first and second corner, and he's going to slowly get up to speed, but with those tyres are going to be overheating a little bit, which means it's going to be hard for him to get back up to speed, and he won't want to push too hard because he'll find himself sliding off again. But what that does mean is that's going to start giving Joel someone to chase after. He realises that this is his chance to start clawing back some points, and Malk, after that awful run of form he's had and some really bad luck, is really in some desperate need of picking up some good points. Was in a great battle with Tumas, but unfortunately just that slight error coming into turn 1 and turn 2 found himself running wide, and he's now 3 seconds behind Tumas. As we'll go on board here with Mero D2. In fact, we'll sit on board with Mero as he chases the back of Mystic Man 22. So the Red Bull, the leading car, chases the back of the junior team of the Toro Rosso with the DRS open. He's sitting around 0.4 of a second behind. Now we know, of course, Mero, the pole sitter, very quick around here. So what can Mystic do to keep the Red Bull behind him? As you can see there, the position changes throughout the race. Or Mero getting a little bit of a snap oversteered there, as Joel picks up a 5-second stop-go penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Pit lane right on the start-finish line here. You, like Monza, you drive into it, and it can be very tricky sometimes to get slowed down, and Mero's going to find it really hard, as he does. Just outbraked himself there going into the second Degner, and he's real pity there for Mero, who was looking more likely to overtake Mystic, but just overdid it slightly going into the second Degner underneath the crossover, ran onto the gravel, and he's going to get those tyres all dirty. It's not what you want to do towards the end of your stint on your first set of rubber. Scott at the top at the moment, managing to hold Gamer at bay at the moment. Gamer's only made up 0.4 of a second over the last 2 laps, so pretty decent pace so far for the McLaren at the top. We've got the position, like I said, the position changes. So Scott has moved up 1 position into first. Gamer's moved up 3 into second. Nicky has held position, who's currently in the pit lane, and he comes into box here, which is going to allow Mero through up into 4th position. As you see there, he goes past. So Mero's dropped down 3 after starting on pole. Nicky currently dropping down 2 after holding position early in the race. Tumas has had a good start, moving up into 4th position. Malk's moved up 1. Eye Makers moves up 1, who had a cracking start, but unfortunately got tangled up in the Senna S's earlier in the race when there was that whole gaggle of cars, and finds himself now down in 8th position. Joel with his unfortunate start of the early spin under the crossover in ninth, and it's Chill Nilliand, the one who's really suffered in this start so far, as Mero's struggling once again in the Degners to get that car slowed down, just pushing a little bit too hard here. Realise that he made that mistake behind Mystic, does want to make the same one again. What he wants to do here is just start setting some consistent laps with some decent pace, just so that he doesn't lose too much time, and perhaps look to do the or maybe even look for the undercut on Mystic Man if he doesn't come in at the end of this lap. We'll go on stops here. So yeah, see Nicky 9095, Joel and Chill have made stops. Of course, Chill's stop was for a new front wing, as Boy better know. So Scott picks up a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. So not what he wants to see at all, and with Gamer the best only 2.5 seconds behind him, that would put Gamer in the lead. And Gamer, of course, very rarely picks up penalties, as Mero just getting twitchy coming out of the final corner here, as we're going to go in broadcast once again, go back to our cameramen as they follow some of these guys around. As you can see, the tyre choices that guys have made, so we've got the top 7 all on the super soft tyres currently, and 8th, 9th and 10th all on the soft tyres looking to run long. So as Tumas and Malk once again rekindle their battle. So Malk's caught right up to the back of Tumas, who may have made a mistake to allow Malk back up, and the Force India is right up behind the back of the Sauber and really hassling the gearbox. And all Tumas is going to see in his mirrors is the pink Panther of the Sahara Force India BWT car. Getting a little bit scrappy coming out of the centre S's for Tumas 5-3. I believe Malk is looking to be the faster driver at the moment, so he's going to look to get this move done sooner rather than later, as Tumas got almost 45 degrees coming around that corner, just drifting the Sauber around the hairpin at turn 10, and the Force India is all over the back of him. We go into Spoon here, the first section of Spoon. Tumas runs wide, that's going to allow Malk the opportunity, but he doesn't, but he runs wide. Tumas is really seeming to struggle on these super soft tyres, must be coming into the pits as Gamer the best pits from second position at the moment and goes on to the medium tyres by the looks of it. So the medium tyres for Gamer the best. Medium tyres can be quite slow around here. It's all about getting the best pace out of them. Of course, with 17 laps left to go, he will benefit compared to the guys at pits for the soft compound tyre. So there was definitely some talk in the pre-show with the guys in the paddock about how they felt with the tyre wear, if it would be a super soft to medium race or a super soft to soft, and there was definitely discussions about whether the soft tyre would be able to do as many laps as well as the guys would want after coming off of the super softs. And so Gamer the best obviously looking at going longer on the medium tyres and conserving the tyre wear compared to his aggressive strategy, which we're quite used to seeing from Gamer, of going pretty aggressive on his strategy. And so last week he ran intermediate tyres for what seemed like 3/4 of the race until it was ready for ultra soft tyres, and he was just driving away on every position or every corner. He was just making up time on everyone. So as Boy better know, so Scott, the leader, comes into the pit lane in the McLaren. So the McLaren cars are, or McLaren mechanics are waiting, and it's the soft compounder tyre waiting for him. So different to Gamers, Mystic Man 22 also comes into the pit lane on softs, and Mero D2. So all the top 3 currently all into the pit lane. Now what happens with Nicky and Gamer? Does Gamer get any positions up on Scott, who's come out? Now it looks like it's still around 3 seconds, maybe just under 2, around 2 seconds for Gamer at the moment. So yeah, so you can see there 1.9 seconds, 2 seconds from Gamer. So he's made up around 0.2, 0.3 of a second on Boy Better Know, who comes back out. But Nicky 9095, our championship leader at the moment, still out there on the super soft tyres in second position, starting to make up a little bit of time on Scott. So what Scott won't want, and possibly holding him up as he tries to go defensive into some corners, as Tumas 5-3 picks up a 3-second time penalty as Mystic Man put on the medium compound of tyre. And Malk and Tumas, once again you can see him trading positions. As all race long these two have been going at it. So with Nicky 0.3 of a second ahead, so we'll go back up. Sorry, I do want to watch that Tumas and Malk fight, but McLaren's really going at it as Nicky looks to the inside of the final hairpin on Boy Better Know for the lead, but doesn't quite get it done. So falls back. He was within 0.3, but now back to 5-6 of a second away. He's got DRS though, so going to be right in the back, but this is really going to be playing into the hands of Game of the Best, who's just going to let these two fight, and they're going to hold each other up, and Gamer should just be able to conserve those medium tyres even more. As you can see, as we just check here the stop, so Nicky has made that stop and he's on the faster tyre, but he will need to stop again. So Nicky going for the 2-stop strategy, whereas it looks like Gamer is only going for the 1, and Scott, I imagine, is looking to do the 1-stop strategy, but will struggle later in the race on worn tyres. So definitely an interesting choice here from the top three, all going for a different strategy option. So one going for hoping to run the softs to the end, one going for a 2-stop strategy, and Game of the Best on the more conservative, as Eyemakers picks up a 3-second time penalty. So Tumas, Malk and Eyemakers all yet to stop. So we'll go down and check on Eyemakers and Malk here. And Malk fallen back a little bit from the Sauber of Tumas. As Boy Better Know picks up another penalty. So nightmare scenario for Boy Better Know there, is 6 seconds of penalty he has now. That would demote him down to 3rd position. So with Nicky currently in 2nd position and Gamer in 3rd, they would quite comfortably take the positions off of Scott. So he either needs to start putting in some good laps and trying to stretch out a lead again, or he's going to find himself dropping down positions even further. It's Malk starting to put on a battle as Tumas comes into the pit lane in the Sauber, so goes for the earlier stop compared to Malk, who's going to have to stay out on the super soft tyres now. Should Malk have followed in Tumas, they were so closely matched on circuit, should he have followed him in on and made it a battle of the mechanics and tried to come out, or does he think that he's still got the grip on those old super softs to get it done, as Tumas comes out in 9th position? We'll just look. He does go for the... Tumas goes for the soft compound tyre, so 14 laps on the soft tyre, so should be relatively easy there for Tumas. So I believe it may only be Malk that is due to stop. Good pace from Malk so far on those super soft tyres. As you can see, their fastest lap at the moment is Nicky 9095 in 2nd position. As Game of the Best now starting to look at the back of Nicky, and we've already seen the battle between the Sauber and the McLaren earlier in the race, and unfortunately only ends one way for Nicky, and as Gamer gets right up to the rear end of the McLaren coming into the 1st and 2nd corners. Now he wants to stay quite tight around the centre S's as Mero sets the fastest lap with 1:33.2 in the Red Bull on the soft tyre. No overtaking opportunities here for Gamer. Now it's going to be staying quite tight through the Degners here. You've got the first Degner they're going through now as they go through the second Degner under the crossover into the hairpin at turn 10. Now that's your first overtaking or main overtaking option in the race. on the circuit, I should say, as he comes round towards Spoon. Now Spoon can be quite tricky, especially if you're caught in the dirty air of the car in front. But does Nicky run wide and give Gamer the chance of running up the inside? No, he doesn't. So Gamer's now going to have to use that drag going down the long straight into 130R, tucked right up in the gearbox of the McLaren, round 130R. Does he lunge down the inside? He does make the move towards the inside of the McLaren. He turns Nicky around, and Gamer's just about going to keep it in a straight line now. Gamer the best there went deep into the corner, attacking the McLaren of Nicky, and unfortunately 2 into 1 does not go, and the Sauber turned the McLaren around, and unfortunately for that, it means Nicky has lost quite a lot of time to Game the Best, almost 5 seconds by the looks of it. So definitely something that the stewards may have to look into after the race to see if it was a situation where it was a racing incident, or if Game of the Best just made the move just a little bit too late. He did seem to be quite a distance behind Nicky going into the chicane, so will be very interesting to see that on the driver's point of view later in the race. So we've got a yellow in sector 2, and Nicky has retired from the session, and he's lost it coming out of the second Degner, just as Joel did and as Gamer did in qualifying. And Nicky has put the McLaren into the wall coming under the crossover, and just as Gamer did in qualifying, has found himself with terminal damage, losing that front right hand wheel. An absolute disaster for our championship leader, as he retires from the Japanese Grand Prix in the McLaren. Now this is really going to shake things up, and with Game of the Best able to pick up some points today, this is really now where Joel and Chill are going to really regret their early mishaps in the race, because this was this was really the chance for them to make up some quality points and take the lead in the championship. We now only have 9 runners left in the race, so nine drivers all vying for the running quite old softs is going to now become under attack from Malk, who's on those new tyres in the Force India, as Chill goes defensive into the last chicane as iMakers comes in from 5th position. Now we have a battle here as iMakers drops down. He puts on the super soft tyre, so 11 laps on the super soft tyre should be pretty easy for iMakers there, but as you can see here, we've got a real battle unfolding between Chill Nilliand and Malk, as Joel isn't too far up the road, but Malk looking racy throughout the entirety of this Grand Prix, just can't seem to get a consistent run. He just seems to be stuck behind drivers every point. But the Hash surely can't hold on much longer with that Force India swarming across the back of it. As they enter the first Degner, Chill runs wide, and that's going to let Malk up the inside, as Chill just the tyres did not have the grip that he wanted it to have. And Chill unfortunately runs wide. That allows Malk in the Force India through and up into 7th position. Malk, however, a little bit slow out of the hairpin of turn 10, so it's going to compromise him coming down the long right-hander of turn 12 into Spoon of turn 13 and 14. So they exit the second part. That's for turn 14, exit Spoon, going down now onto the long straight. The guys will be at full throttle for almost 16 seconds as they go down into 130R, which can be taken flat. As you see there, Chill running quite nicely through the corner. He's getting it slowed down just in time with this wonderful helicopter view of the Haas car following the rear end of the Force India. But I believe Chill will probably look to make a pit stop later in the race, maybe to put on a set of the super soft tyres. As we look up, we have here Mero here attacking the rear end of Mystic Man 22, for this is for the final position on the podium. Mystic Man 22 in the Toro Rosso with the Red Bull once again all over the back of him. Mero has caught up to the back of Mystic after making that mistake going into the second Degner as they went under the crossover earlier in the race. He's now caught right up to the back of the Toro Rosso. Once again, he's going to be well within DRS range and maybe even closer going into 130R. Now, does Mero look to get the move done going into the chicane? He does make a very late move, and fortunately, unlike with Nicky and Game of the Best, doesn't get collected. So, but he is going to get DRS, and it looks like this might be a foregone conclusion with the Red Bull as Mystic goes very defensive early. Mero's going to have to go around the outside, and he does sweep round the outside. An absolutely spectacular move there from Mero, who, with unfortunately after the incident with Scott, who boy better know, on the first lap in the CNRS, is maybe right up at the front of this race, but currently now finds himself 18 seconds behind the leader in the Red Bull. And we'll go down here, we'll see once again, here's this gaggle of cars that seems to be attached to the hip all race long as Joel makes his second pit stop. So that leaves Chilnillian, who's starting to come back at Malk and has picked up the DRS, but luckily for Malk there, picked up the DRS off of Joel as he headed it into the pit lane, which voids Chill's advantage of the DRS as well. Now, with a little bit of breathing room in front of him, does Malk now start to push on a little bit? And he can see that Tumas 5-3 isn't that far ahead of him, so very interesting to see if Malk, who's has shown some pace in the race today, if he can start to close up to the back of the Sauber in front. As you can see the interval here between the drivers, so Game of the Best currently sitting 4.5 seconds behind Scott for the lead of the race, but look to see that come down towards the end of the race with Game of the Best on the slower tyre currently, but longer life, and it will definitely start to come into his own come maybe lap 24, lap 25. So the last few laps we may start to see this lead come down pretty dramatically, as Mero D2 sits in third position, 2.5 seconds behind. He's got Mystic Man 22 with Tumas way behind them, 38 seconds behind them. So we have definitely got a vast gap on track with Tumas now, with Malk sitting just over a second behind him there, as Childinian does make his second pit stop. So he does have to come off of those softs that he put on very early in the race on lap 3, I believe it was. And so he will be setting a set of super softs there, so we'll be looking to push on and set some fast laps later in the race. iMakers, they're running around in 7th, so a little bit of a scrappy start to the race for iMakers, and he won't be happy about that, but some good points for him currently in 7th position. It's all about staying on the circuit now. You can see even the best of drivers, so Nicky 9995, as we saw earlier, lost control coming out of the corner. We just saw the Sauber and the Force India go through the second Degner under the crossover, hitting the barrier. So even the top guys make mistakes. This battle is still going on, and what feels like has been going on for all race long is that Malk just seems to be behind a car and just hounding them, but it's getting that move done as Tumas runs a little bit wide coming out of turn 14. Now it's going to allow Malk right up, going down into 130R. He stays in the just about in the rear wing. Does he make the move down into the hairpin? No, he thinks against it. He doesn't want to get hooked up like Senna and Prost did once again, as he comes wide, gets caught in the dirty air of the Sauber coming out of the final corner, and he's going to have lost a huge bundle of time there. Almost a second he's lost there, just with that slight little bit of oversteer, just a bit of snap oversteer, got himself caught with a little bit of opposite lock. And unfortunately there for Malk there, he's going to have to start all over again. So this is the closest battle we've got on circuit at the moment. Malk in the Force India chasing down that Sauber, which it does look like if Malk can get the move done, he can start pushing on. Does look like the Force India has a lot more pace today than the Sauber. The guys here do find that the actual track surface, the asphalt here, is very grippy, so there's a lot of grip to be found around the circuit. And with brake wear only, or very low, only 10% of the lap is spent braking, so the guys won't have to worry about overheating brakes towards the end of the race, and it can be a real challenge. As you see here, the Force India once again tucked up right behind the back of the Sauber as Malk looks to get the move done, going to 130R, thinks against it. It would be very brave for a car to go side by side through there. Now, does he keep it in a straight line coming out the second hairpin? He does want to get the power down too early. No, it's a much better exit for Malk this time. He's going to get DRS going down the main straight. Does he manage to get the move done? The Force India is way faster than the Sauber, but the Sauber going very defensive and holding off Malk. Malk just didn't seem to be confident enough to get the move done going into turn one there. Just didn't quite want to send it. I'm not sure if he wants to look after those tyres, knowing that we still have 6 laps left to go. But he's still right on the back of the Sauber of Tumas 5-3. Perhaps might need to be at this point in the race. Malk needs to get the move done and get past Mystic and get past Tumas. I apologise there. To get 5th position, because he really needs to start getting some points back after his shocking run of form, and he has said in the paddock that he's not happy with how he's been driving, and the circuits that he's been at, he's been making some silly mistakes, so he will be looking to pick up as many points here as possible as both cars run a little bit wide going into the first part of Spoon, as Joel picks up another 3-second time penalty there. So Nicky 9095 will be happy that his championship challengers at the moment are currently sitting in 8th and 9th position, so he will be maintaining his lead as Malk once again thinks again when it comes to attacking the Sauber. Gets a little bit of a twitch, as you see again, getting a little bit twitchy coming out the final chicane. Just front wheels not quite holding on to how much power was being put through the rear wheels. As Tumas runs 2 wheels onto the grass coming out, or going into the first corner. That's going to, yeah, it is, and Malk gets the move done. Tumas just ran 2 wheels onto the grass going down the main straight, just dirtied up those left-hand side tyres, and just meant that he just lost out on braking when it comes into turn 1, and essentially gave Malk a free pass there. So after spending 3 or 4 laps trying to get the move, or trying to get the circuit, the move done, as we've got a yellow, and it's Tumas that he is, so he's lost it. As the Sauber crawling across the gravel trap here, going out the centre S's, and Eyemakers gets the move done, and he's going to lose it down to Chill as well. So Chill's starting to make up some positions due to Tumas, and Tumas is going to lose control again. Does he keep it out of the wall? No, he doesn't. It's front wing damage there for Tumas 5-3, who's going to be absolutely devastated with this. He was running really well up, and Tumas is going to fall right to the back, to the end of the grid, as he lets the Sauber past of Game of the Best. And unfortunately for Tumas 5-3, it looks like his race is well and truly ruined, with only 4 laps left to go and a damaged front wing. It's a slow tour around to the pit lane to fit a set of super soft tyres. As you can see there, he must be absolutely livid with himself. Just those tyres were just a little bit dirty, a little bit hot from losing control going into the first turn, and unfortunately for him, lost control coming out of the centre S's, as he is currently AFK, so must be absolutely livid with himself. So the car will ghost, and that will allow Merody to get past him and lap the Sauber, as we'll go back up. And so the benefits of that were Chill and Joel, who will take any positions they can get at the moment. because of Nicky 9095 with his crash earlier in the race. Joel and Chill need the points to start clawing back, and with Chill currently sitting only 6 points behind Nicky at the moment, as Tumas picks up a 5-second stop go for speeding in the pit lane, as Joel goes wide going into the second Degner as they go under the crossover there. So scary moment there for Joel, who needs to keep this car on track. He needs to keep picking up those points. And so the comments coming in. Hi, good to see you, Mike. Sorry I didn't have the comments up there. Yeah, it's good to have you in. Shame you couldn't make it tonight. And even never miss, good to have you back watching the stream. Good to have you back in the comments. So yeah, guys, if you've got anything tonight, let me know. Quite happy if you've got anything that you can see that I haven't seen, as Tumas does retire from the race. The pit crew obviously saw something that they realised was a little bit dangerous to send it back out after that collision with the wall in the first Degners. We've got a yellow in sector 1. I believe that may be for Tumas's car, or is it someone else? No, it looks like it may be for Tumas 5-3. So the closest battle we've got at the moment is Chill, who's 3 seconds behind Eyemakers, who's going to be picking up a pretty handy 6th position tonight. So good points there for Eyemakers. Now what's going to be interesting with the final 2.5 laps we've got left is Boy Better Know on those soft tyres is managing to hold off Gamer the Best, who put on the medium compound. So it's going to be very interesting to see if Gamer can use the medium tyre to start coming back, if Boy Better Know's tyres do hold on for these final 2 laps that he's got to take round this Suzuka circuit. As we'll go up to the front of the grid and we'll go on board with Gamer the Best, our 4-man who's currently in 2nd position, started 5th after that crash in qualifying that left him finishing or starting on the 3rd row of the grid. And unfortunately for him, Boy Better Know has just been on it today, and McLaren at the front of the grid and the front of the race had a little bit of a collision when it came to in the first Senna S with Mero D2, who started on pole position. That put Mero onto the gravel and knocked him all the way down to last position. So, but apart from that, Boy Better Know, which is Scott, and he is, well, essentially driven a pretty much perfect race. Evening Sam, yeah, Soft should be okay to the end. They should be fine, especially with the laps they've got left. It does look like it's been the better decision. Gamer, we do know that he does like to make the riskier strategy choices, but today went a little bit more conservative, did set the medium tyres, so does mean that he just didn't get the tyre, or just didn't get the grip and the speed to come back at Scott earlier in the stint. As you can see, the times now come down to 2.7 with 2 laps left to go, so Gamer's going to have to really put in some hot laps over the last 2 and hope that Scott's tyres just fall off the edge of a cliff if he's going to get it moved down. It's down to 2.5, so he's made up just over 0.3 of a second in that first sector as they go through the Senna S's into the first Degner. As we'll go back down, as we can see Chilnillian here starting to attack the rear end of Eyemakers, just 0.2 of a second behind. He's going to be right up the back of it, or the rear end of the Force India, going down the straight as they full throttle for 16 seconds, heading down towards 130R. And he heaps it in, but Eyemakers is going to run wide going through 130R. That's going to allow Chill right up to the back of him as they go into the final chicane, and he gets it nicely out, and he's going to get a really good run on the Force India going down the start finish line. And the Force India going defensive really early into that, and may just give him a little bit of a disadvantage as Chill just can't quite get up to the back of him. As Chill there on the Super Softs, of course, pitted onto the Super Softs quite late, and he's going to be right in the rear end of that Force India as they go round the final lap. And at the moment it looks like Boy Better Know is going to take his first win after, and only his 2nd race for the No Assist League, is through past Eyemakers, got the move done on track, didn't have to worry about penalties as the Haas driver goes through past the Force India in as they go out of turn 10 there, you can see both cars almost on full drift coming out of the hairpin. But we'll go back up to the front of the race, as you see coming out of the hairpin there. It's Boy Better Know as he heads down round through turn 11, the long right-hander which is turn 12 into spoon curve of turn 13 right now. Just has to keep it tight as he does, just kisses the outside curb, runs out, perfect line through the exit of second half of spoon onto the long straight down towards 130R. And after a second place last week in Canada, Scott is going to pick up his first win in the Invictus Racing League No Assist Championship as the McLaren driver comes down through the final chicane, crosses the line, and Boy Better Know SB takes the victory. But he does not, he did pick, as I forgot, he had 6 seconds penalty, and that allows Gamer the Best, who picks up the win once again. And I completely forgot that Boy Better Know had 6 seconds of penalty. So as you were from last week, Gamer the Best takes the victory. So Scott will be absolutely gutted with himself there to have dropped down, as Merida 2 picks up a well-deserved third position. Will be gutted after that instant on the first lap. Mystic Man 22 picks up fourth position as we go 44 seconds back on track, so still down only at spoon curve, and it's going to be fifth position at the moment for Malk, who is going to be quite happy with this decent haul of points for him after the last time he picked up points was in Singapore earlier in the season. So he's definitely going to look to have a strong finish to this season as the Force India gets it slowed down going into the final chicane, comes out, and the Force India of Malk, that's F1 WWFC 07, crosses the line in fifth position, and Chill Nyland is going to cross the line just behind him in the Haas to finish sixth, and with that will be right up behind Nicky 9095, who crashed out earlier in the race. iMakers picks up seventh place, and I believe the drivers behind were all lapped. So as you can see, the drivers now coming out onto the podium, and it will be Gamer the Best in the Sauber that will pick up his third consecutive win in the No Assist Championship. Boy Better Know will pick up a second consecutive second after coming across the line first on track, but unfortunately due to that 6 second time penalty, or those 2 3-second penalties, he'll be ruining those silly mistakes he made earlier in the race, and comes in second. And Mero D2, after being knocked down to last place after the first lap with his contact with Boy Better Know, comes back to finish on the podium after starting on pole. So as you see there, the final results, Gamer the Best picks up the win from Scott in second, Mero D2 in third, with Mystic Man 22 in fourth, Malk in fifth, and Chill Nilliand in sixth. iMakers picks up a good seventh, sorry. Joel in eighth, and he'll be disappointed with that result. Tumas 5-3, and Nicky 9095 unfortunately crashed out of the race earlier. So a very interesting race there for the guys, and like I said before, Scott will be absolutely gutted there that got the race pretty much start to finish. He came in, made his pit stop, came out. Gamer just didn't seem to have the pace to catch up to him on track, and he had the strategy pretty much perfect, but picking up those 6 points, six penalty, just really hampered him. And unfortunately for him, that means a second consecutive second place finish, and Gamer is really now starting to push towards the top half of this championship. So he was on 34 points, that now puts him on 46 points, so now will be three or 4 points behind Nicky, who will just about maintain the championship lead by 1 point, I believe. So Chill would have moved up to 49 points, or Nicky will be on 50 still. Chill will move up to 49, Stifler stays on 44, but Gamer the Best will move up onto 46. So Game of the Best will move up into third position in the championship. Joel, unfortunately, falling all the way back to the end of the grid after his spin on the first lap, means that he will only pick up 3 points, which puts him on 45. So a very, very tight race when it comes to the final half of the season. And it's going to be an absolute cracker. And with Hungary next up next week, we're in for an absolute barnstorm of a race, and another track like Canada where penalties can be picked up quite frequently. It's very easy to run over the white lines and find yourself in trouble with the stewards. So going to be very, very interesting to see what happens there. But for tonight, feel free, guys, to like and share this stream on your social media channels. We'll try and get it out as much as possible. We will be here not only tomorrow for the Performance League, which will also be in Japan, but also F1, F2 and F3 on Wednesday will be in Japan. I will be in the commentary box once again with Malk tomorrow, guesting whilst Craig is away, so I will see you then. But apart from that, follow us on Invictus RL on Twitter for all information and updates. And if you want my personal Twitter for any updates on Invictus, it's G_Hall_89. Sorry. So for tonight, thank you for joining me. Thank you for engaging, and I will say good night.